Hey everybody, it's Joe Greco at Greco Arcana. Today we're going to talk about the Nine of Swords. This is a card. I feel like I've been doing a lot of these reviews, or I'm drawn to them, where when this comes out in a reading, there's a lot of ooh and ahs. Right? And it's understandable. If you look at the imagery there, the person completely disturbed in the middle of the night, obviously in bed, and just total anguish and tears, and these swords shooting through above his or her head. This is a card that I feel like always gets the the most negative impressions from the readers and from the people, the querents. So what I want to do is cover it. In order to cover the Nine of Swords, we're going to tell the story of the Eight, the Nine, and the Ten. Okay, or the cards that represent mutable air Gemini. Okay, let me just move that. Okay, so let's start with the Eight of Swords. Now, eight is the swords are obviously a product of the mind, thoughts, communication, right thinking, true thinking. That's what the swords should invoke when you think about them. Um, they're attached to the mind, so they're represented as elemental air. Okay. 8, 9, 10 coming at the end. Oh, let me just adjust this real fast. Sorry about that. Okay. 8, 9, 10 coming at the end are represented in the Hermetic system as mutable air. Okay. So they're telling the story of mutable air or Gemini. Okay. So we'll start with the 8. This is another, I mean, so many of the swords cards get read negatively. This one often does too, as being bound and held to something. But these are swords we're talking about, right? So when I tend to read this, I think of this as the past. Okay. It's you being held in your own beliefs, you being bound to your own thought programs, your own ideas of truth. Like he or she is bound to the swords, and people often talk about like, oh, these wraps are light and you can just wiggle out of them. I know people read that way. I just don't understand it. Like, did Pixie have to make the wrap so tight that the people were expressing like more discomfort? I don't get that. But for me, I never see that. It's that you're being held in position by your older thoughts, by the thoughts that have been established. And I read that because the swords are going into something, into the physical earth, into your material self, your material body, right? And water is just kind of dribbling around, or your intuition, your subconscious. Okay. So eights are initiation. Eights are a moment when that's realized that you are held in this position by yourself, by your thought patterns, your mind. Okay? Now we move to the nine. The swords here are not driven into the earth. They're not driven into your history and your past. They're not driven into anything, right? They're just continuing on ad infinitum. They're not even represented. Now, for me, nines are where eights are about initiation and power and the energy of an element. Um, And the Eight of Swords is obviously that energy of an element of mind to make itself up and stay there, to be unchanging. That's what the mind is good at that. Okay, nines are about culmination. So this is the culmination. And so when I see the man sitting up in bed, I think of realization or awakening. Okay. Now those are things that once they happen to you, you can never go back. I mean, outside of like amnesia or dementia or something like that, you just can't go back. When you learn something and it changes you, you're changed. There's a consequence to every idea that we have about ourselves and every idea we have about others. every idea that we have about our careers and where we fit in the world, there's a consequence to each one of them when that idea gets far enough along. Okay? And there's an awakening. There's a realization. Now, I don't only see that as anguish because these swords, they're not driven into anything. These are imaginary, right? Like this is that moment of awakening and realization where things have changed. You have changed. Your mind has been challenged. What it's built to do is establish an identity for you, a you out of this all. It creates the you, it grounds it into the ground, and it binds you to it, to this idea of you. But if you're on a journey, this is bound to happen too, right? You're going to have a realization. You're going to awaken from that. And then that story concludes with the 10, right? Now, the swords aren't just in your history. The thoughts, the communication, the truth, the mind, they're piercing him right up his spine, right? Thoroughly piercing him. Tens are tens are the end of a cycle. Okay? Tens are the if nines are a culmination, the tens are are completeness. Right? So the 10 is when the thought has just permeated everything. It has changed you. Okay, you got to remember in Hermetic system, like the Golden Dawn guys, a lot of them were either Hermeticists or they were Gnostics, or a mixture of both. Like the Rosicrucianism is kind of it ties in a lot of like Hermetic thoughts into its Gnosticism. So what they would have seen death as is the end of a cycle, and something is born from that, right? And Arthur Edward Waite, the person who came up with the idea for the cards and hired Pamela Coleman Smith to do the illustrations for it, was a member of a group called the Golden Dawn. And I'm sure everyone here knows that. And as he has been permeated, as these thoughts have completely done what they were going to do, okay, and they have permeated him in every single way and changed him, there would be a rebirth in that system, right? And what do we see starting to come up? A golden dawn, right? I mean, I view this as the darkness is going to be receding and a rising golden dawn will be taking its place. So that's the story of 8, 9, 10 in the way I see it when I'm doing a reading for people. I mean, I think that the swords cards, they're they're so often seen as negative, and like I get it because like the mind is also like the home of the ego, and there's a lot of bullshit there, right? Like both of these, all three of these are really isolation moments, right? And the mind is isolating. No one else is experiencing what you're experiencing. That's literally how the mind works. It is the one thing that has pulled you out. If you believe in an eternal soul and you believe in the macrocosm reflecting the microcosm, and that you are this spark of spirit, or you're this, you're this reflection of the all. The one thing that separates us is the mind. The mind creates that separation and says, no, I'm my own thing. I want to develop in my own way. I want to blaze my own path and believe what I want to believe, and so on and so forth. So I get it. Like in systems like Hermeticism and Gnosticism, Rosicrucianism, to Freemasons, they would see the mind maybe in a little bit more of a um, not a negative light, but adversarial of their overall goal of climbing that ladder. Um, but it's a part of you, and it literally is the differentiating part of you. So it's something that you experience completely on your own because that's what it's meant to do. Um, yeah, so that's it. That's my, I guess it wasn't just the nine of swords, but the eight, nine, ten. And yeah, if you're wondering that, because I've gotten asked this before when I was doing readings, um, where I'm getting these planetary correspondences from, that's from the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. That's their system that I was taught where there's, you know, each card is representing a correspondence between the planet and its zodiac sign. I had to hand write them and come up with them. It's a huge pain in the ass. Now I just have most of them memorized, or I'll just look at a deck that I can reference for what the exact alignment is. The zodiac signs are pretty easy. The last three are always mutable. These were the last three, so they were the mutable. Mutable air is Gemini. But the planetary ones are kind of a pain in the ass. So that's where I keep getting that when I use that. That's where I get that from. Anyway, I hope you guys like this. Take care.